Okay, that's the old stuff. So I'm going to exit out of that and go to the new. And a lot of it looks the same. You know, you still have the same sliders. Easier to turn them on and turn most of the accelerations on. The joystick enable now actually talks about the individual devices, and it's showing you where it's going to number wise. So whoever is going to do the the animation can see what the full travel is, those kinds of things. You know, we've got the nod working and it's telling you what it's got. We've got the turn, and we got the tilt, and the neck now, instead of being up here on the POV, is actually on the acceleration slider. Okay, a lot easier to control. You can't do it with one hand, but it's easier to control. Okay, so that's the joystick portion. The other key thing I wanted to do was get some snapshots and sequence. Snapshot is pretty much done. Anytime you hit quick save, it takes a snapshot of wherever you are. Actually, let me get out of the joystick. And you got a snapshot.
A snapshot of the bird?
No, of the current position.
Oh, I see.
Steve, that's what you wanted, right?
Absolutely, that's great.
So we do a quick save, and it's a snapshot.
Awesome.
Well, now how do I get it, right? Let's do a name and save. Which case it's going to allow you to name the thing. Let's go into snapshots. Here's our previous snapshots. Quick snapshot by default just puts today's date and time on it, you know, including a second. So you can't do more than one a second with a quick snapshot. But this is, you know, you're trying to do a couple of quick things and I'm going to go back later and name them. You know what I mean? So let's call this one, you know, left. And actually, if we'd have moved everything to the left, that would have made more sense, wouldn't it? Because in a minute we're going to grab them. Yep. Okay, so now if we go to load something, we can choose like default, and it's going to move it to your standard startup. You want to load a different one, you go back to left, and you're over there. Okay.
Could these be played back in sequence yet, or?
Not yet.
Okay.
The intention is.
But that's the intention,
yes.
Sure.
Okay. And if edit, what edit does for you is it brings you up to the folder so that you can see individual ones, and if you chose to, you can find out what's in it. Just a bunch of numbers. All right. Need to make that smaller, so it's more visible on the screen. So left you can see is low numbers, and if we look at default, they're pretty much in the middle, the 50s, with the exception of, you know, the neck. The default position is straight up. Okay?
Perfect.
So, you know, and then what if you wanted to do, if we take the left guy, we could actually sit here and edit it. Okay. Make this an 85. You know, let's say you didn't get it quite where you wanted it. Save. So now go out of here, go back to a load, go to a left. And they should all be left with the exception of the one that we just edited, which was what? Nod. Okay.
That's really great progress. That's really cool.
So that, you know, that was the snapshot. Once I have that figured out, then it was to get into the sequences. The idea with the sequence is you're going to name and record, pretty much like name and save. All right. It's going to ask you a file name, and then from there, the joystick will be enabled, and anything you do with the joystick will be recorded 10 times a second. Ooh. All right, until you hit stop. Okay, and you know when you go into name and record mode, the other buttons will be disabled except for the stop. Then later, when you want to hit play, then you'd hit play. You'll go choose a particular one, and it'll start just playing that sequence. What became evident to me, the reason why I did the snapshot first, is because there's certain learnings I had to do. There's certain things I had to figure out. And really, as you kind of pointed out earlier, Steve, the sequence is really a whole bunch of little snapshots in a row.
That's really it.
But I started getting the bigger picture that we've got 11 to 12 animals on the screen, and maybe a bow and who knows what, you know, and the conductor's wand.
Yeah.
And all of those have to be controlled, so you start figuring 60, 70, 80 different sliders. Most of them aren't moving most of the time. How the heck are we going to keep track of it?
Yeah.
Because if we tried to talk to every motor controller 10 times a second, you need a lot more powerful computers and a lot more USBs and a lot of other things. So only send the signals for the change. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to do that in XML. Okay, this is, well, you know what XML is, and I think that's the right way to go. Okay,
Absolutely.
so every 10th of a second, there'll be a new XML line, and it'll just have the ones that are appropriate, and those signals will be sent out. And most of the time, it'll be nothing, because most tenths of a second, nothing is really changing. Things may still be in motion from signals that they were given earlier.
Nice.
But
Very cool.
what we'll still be able to do is, let's say, 4 or 5 of the animals are singing to a beat, and you want them to nod, to the beat. They'd be able to do that.
Nice.
Okay,
That's
so
awesome.
that's part of the reason why it wasn't done is because I was thinking ahead.
Right.
And the other part of the reason is where we're headed next is that I know I can do this at any time. Made enough progress. It's really about getting John to work on the next animal, making sure that we know what to do. We're going to get into window motors in a couple of minutes. We're going to get into building a neck prototype. Get the fundamentals done.
Sure.
I can work in this in my leisure. You know what I'm trying to say? So this is where we are. The burn-in software is pretty much the way it was. When you kick it off. Yeah, there we go. Then it brings up the timer and those kind of things. I'll pad the timer, no big deal. So let's turn that off and go back to default. But there was, a fair number of small improvements that really added up to a more usable thing, such as, the joystick having readable numbers and things. So that's where we are. That's what you guys will get. So you do have, even though you won't have Mac with you, when you don't have Mac with you, you can still do, the quick save. It'll save whatever the sliders are. You can still do the edit. You just can't do the load because there's, nothing to drive. Okay? So. All right.
What might be nice
Yes.
eventually is like a piano roll style edit for the XML files.
Interesting.
Just a thought,
Okay.